Salutations, the name's Cavil. After reviewing my childhood nightmares, I needed a nostalgia trip for the sake of self-care. Enter Sonic Colors, the first video game I bought with my own money. My favorite area was always Planet Wisp, but it's recently come to my attention that this area is not popular. Why is that? I mean, it's had 5 different appearances. Next will be telling me Green Hill's unpopular. Before we investigate, a ground rule. I'm reviewing each version of Planet Wisp, not the games they come from. For example, I won't bring up the Yellow Wisp because it's unavailable there. Got it? Ready, set, go. The first version is the best version. How original. Seriously though, I adore Planet Wisp. Look at this environment. It's divided into natural segments, which are mostly green, and industrial segments, which are mostly orange. They're both so distinct, but coexist so seamlessly, and makes for an incredibly alien effect. The constant juxtaposition tastes like Alice in Wonderland, which really suits the gameplay. People like to call Sonic Colors a 2D game, but that needs elaboration. It isn't really that the game is dominated by 2D segments, more so that the 3D segments are barren as hell. The Wii can't really handle something as fast as Sonic Unleashed, leaving Sonic Colors with simpler levels and slower, heavier physics. They were complete defeatists with these 3D segments, leaving them either totally empty like Tropical Resort or totally automated like Starlight Carnival. It's telling that the new gimmick is alien power-ups, but only half of them are usable in a 3D space. Honestly though, I'd call Planet Wisp the only exception. These 3 segments aren't packed to the brim or anything, but the terrain is shaped in more fun ways, probably because of how strong the art design is. I'd only give it a C, but like, the other 3 segments are Fs. No hesitation. The 2D segments are where this game shines, however, taking advantage of the slower physics to produce more of a puzzle platformer. Each Wisp grants you a new type of traversal. Green gives you flight, orange launches you vertically, cyan launches you any direction, and blue exchanges rings for pathways. Pink is the one Planet Wisp focuses on, which is probably why people hate it so much. This Wisp is by far the worst. It grants you 2 abilities, spin dashing, which is a cute reference, and climbing walls, which is beyond jank. You'll be pushing right on the joystick until you reach the wall, then you'll start climbing upwards. As you climb, you continue pushing right on the joystick, even when you reach the roof and have to move left. Logically, this means you push left if you want to turn around, right? Wrong. How do you turn around? You don't. Because you're taking repeated 90-degree turns, the game struggles to figure out which direction you're actually trying to move in. Once in a blue moon I convince it to switch directions, but the best I can usually do is stop and wait for the power-up to end. Factor in the speed of the spin dash and you constantly overshoot your destination with no way to turn around. I'm sure it's as hard to understand as it is to describe, but trust me when I tell you this Wisp is misery from top to bottom. The others are damn solid though, helping you do all manner of exploration. Like you can just avoid them and run to the finish line, but you can also avoid sugar when baking cookies. The game rewards you for how quickly you get to the finish line, but rather than avoid obstacles, Sonic Color offers a variety of shortcuts that the Wisp can access. Within these shortcuts you'll find red rings, collect all of them, and you'll eventually unlock Super Sonic. The game just strikes the perfect balance when it comes to gameplay rewards, and Planet Wisp is no exception. Lastly, Boost Sonic games are infamous for not having enough content. Forces, for example, takes barely 3 hours. Sonic Colors solve this with filler. Roughly half the stages are only a minute long or have reused content. They are shameless about it, like these stages where you're being carried on a hovering bounce pad, which does not qualify as gameplay. I'd call the filler in Planet Wisp the least transparent. I only noticed this cliff in level 5. You climb it and the finish line is on top, but in the very next level you climb it again and there's only a spring. If you want to see true filler, join me in I'm gonna win 0 friends with this next choice. I guess I'll start with my version. You're seeing footage from the Steam release, but I also own the Switch version, which I'd personally recommend. It has problems which I'll get into, but it's portable and the game looks beautiful on an OLED display. Speaking of visuals, this game feels in probably the most embarrassing way possible. How is that? Well, Sonic Colors was developed for the Hedgehog engine, a game engine that lets Sonic go from this to this. Then in 2017, we met the Hedgehog Engine 2. So when remaking Sonic Colors, they'd use the upgraded engine, right? Wrong. They preferred Tetris. Ultimate boasts the all-new Blind Squirrel engine, which isn't even an impressive claim. There are Friday Night Funkin' mods with the original engines. However, it's still more impressive than what they actually did. Use the royalty-free Godot engine and proceed to lie about it. This legitimately offends me. Like, Sega's done a lot wrong from Sonic Boom to Free Riders, but I can't think of anything this slimy. Sega developed a brand new flashy game engine and simply downgraded instead of using it, before lying to the fans to avoid backlash. How does it affect gameplay? Well, for one, Sonic, the rings, and the cutscenes are way too washed out and shiny. It's enough to make the whole game appear cheap, and that's a shame because the backgrounds, enemies, and menus are way sharper than the original, taking full advantage of that doubled resolution. They screwed up only the three most important things. Well, actually there is one more. Starlight Carnival has now caused seizures apparently. The area was pure filler to begin with, but now it's dangerous to play. We need a word for this level of incompetence. The other problem with the Godot engine, game performance, as it's far weaker than the Hedgehog engine Sonic Colors was built for. It's most noticeable in the Switch version with frequent lagging, crashing, loading screens as long as 06, and constantly phasing through the ground. I actually really like the Jade Wisp, but not even I can defend how often its glitches will kill you. The Switch version has one more unique flaw, the Joy-Cons. Sonic Colors is one of those games where the controls just melt perfectly into the controller. One joystick to move, only 3 buttons for lunging up, down, or forward, and shaking the Wiimote to activate your Wisp is slick as hell. Usually it's not fair to criticize a port for inauthentic controllers, but like, have you ever played Atari for Switch and been annoyed by all the unnecessary buttons? The Joy-Cons are a special case as you can't play with only one, which is hard to justify, and you also can't activate your Wisp by shaking, which is inexcusable. Controller feel is a small factor in the grand scheme of things, I admit, but it's a great way to get me on board with the remake, like how the new Mario Sunshine lets you plug in a GameCube controller. I've gone an entire page without mentioning Planet Wisp, so much for not reviewing entire games. This segment has been scathing, so why is it only number 4? Well, at the end of the day, it's still Sonic Colors. Even if it's an entirely worse version, I never regret turning it on. There's really nothing to bring up other than the elephant in the room, music. I didn't bring it up to avoid repetition, but the original Planet Wisp has an incredible theme. I sometimes play the theme while hiking because it helps me appreciate how serene my surroundings are, and has that same effect in-game. Then in true boomer fashion, Sega thought we needed a trap remix. I mean, I love trap music, this piece included, but it entirely destroys the level's tone. Thank God you can switch it to the original songs because... oh, that's right, I like trap music. Huh? Well, let them send hate. I'm making a Sonic Top 5 video, I'm clearly secure! Revisiting Generations was a blast, but holy crap was Planet Wisp not part of that. The most immediate difference is that Planet Wisp is only one level, not a collection of levels. With such a short runtime, they had to remove the filler, right? Well, something like that. Remember how Sonic handles slower in Colors and levels were designed to compensate? Then, to keep things interesting, the Wisps help you find shortcuts? Well, hear me out. What if we remove the Wisps and speed Sonic up again? That way the only thing remaining is the level design which requires precise jumping. That's a little harsh. They preserve one more thing, the Orange Wisp. Why? I have no idea honestly. The orange one had to have been least interesting, but that's twice as true in Generations. In Colors, it merely shot you in the air and let you skydive back down. In Generations, not only is the height greatly reduced, not only do you lose the skydiving portion, but you can only use it in the 2D industrial segment, meaning there's always a roof above your head. This Wisp doesn't help you explore at all. You repeatedly need it to access the next area. Remember how I said you can bake a cookie without sugar? That's no longer true, but Generations doesn't add sugar, it adds cat litter. Earlier I dissed the level design, but that needs some elaboration. Sonic is always trying to blast forward, which usually works just fine, but Planet Wisp needs a type of firm control that just isn't offered. It's almost fun whenever you start to speed up, but then the level hits the brakes and you feel completely cheated. Imagine that, repeatedly, for 5 minutes. The natural 3D segment is a lot better to control, but that's not worth much because it's less than a minute. Then you spend 4 minutes in the industrial 2D segment, and this imbalance completely kills the aesthetic. Honestly, dropping Generation Sonic into a level from Colors was doomed to fail. I'd prefer Adventure, Secret Rings, Lost World, any Sonic but this. Hear that, Ultimate? That is how you remix Planet Wisp. I thought I'd start positive because there are some genuine improvements, like the Wisp. They reintroduce... I mean, the pink Wisp is certainly more thematically appropriate than the orange. It's honestly way less difficult here than in Colors. It turns around without much trouble. That doesn't make it good, however. I mean, Classic Sonic can already spin dash. They probably hoped it would feel like an upgraded spin dash, but no, it just feels unnecessary. This Wisp is just insanely boring, and the orange Wisp is too, but it only lasts 4 seconds at a time. Meanwhile, the pink Wisps are so numerous, so necessary, and last so long they'll make up more than half the stage. Making everything worse is the actual song, not the stage theme, the Wisp theme. Imagine this playing for 2 minutes straight. Yes, the same theme was used in Colors, but the pink Wisp wasn't nearly this abused. This Wisp is the only reason I hate the classic version more than modern. Other than that, they're identical. Sonic is always trying to go fast, but you're punished for allowing him to. Using Wisps isn't fun if they don't help you explore, and the aesthetic is ruined because the natural segment lasts a literal 27 seconds. Both stages are about 5 minutes, but this eternal droning makes the classic feel so much longer. I leave it with a headache every single time. Planet Wisp is the final level of Generations, and god does it end on a whimper. Now that I think about it, the final boss is just as horrible. Maybe it's an 06 situation of getting rushed to market. Either way, if the modern stage was a cookie made of cat litter, this version is a cookie made of used cat litter. Some background on this one, I love this game more than the Wii version, so I decided to revisit it, and holy crap, I did not remember Planet Wisp being this incredibly painful. I knew then and there this review needed to be made. I can't bear this pain alone. Firstly, cutscenes. They technically existed beforehand, but Colors put little effort in and Generations put none at all. I wouldn't call the cutscenes in DS better, but they're my favorite flavor of stupid. In Planet Wisp, you have Team Chaotix searching for Eggman's weaknesses. They want to defeat Eggman, but it ends with Vector just giving up and meekly asking Sonic to do it. It's less dumb than Silver going back in time because he wants to visit a theme park, but this anticlimax is just beautiful. Next, the boss fights in Colors completely sucked. In fact, Planet Wisp just reused the first one. They all managed to be too boring and way too easy, but Colors for DS solves this in a big way. The fights are more complex and even cinematic. Now Planet Wisp has this drill bot who forces you to alternate between spinning at his upper half or diving at his lower half. Speaking of this boss, you may notice the screen behaving oddly throughout this segment. Sonic on DS takes place across 2 screens, and if you climb high enough, you enter the top screen. It makes editing the footage a bitch and a half, but it doesn't really affect gameplay, other than making the orange Wisp cooler. About the Wisps, I proudly report that pink did not make the cut. Instead, Planet Wisp focuses on... yellow? The only one that wasn't originally in Planet Wisp? I mean, A+ for creating balance. Or I would say that if you didn't spend the entire time on that one Wisp. The first major problem is the controls. Colors on Wii used a joystick which made drilling a breeze. The DS only has a 4-directional D-pad, which is usually fine but makes this Wisp impossible to control. The drill moves insanely fast, so every turn comes in a massive swerve. Bump into a wall and you completely lose control, which wouldn't be so bad if not for the time limit. If you don't make it through the tunnel within a few seconds, you die, which isn't much of a problem in this game, but god is it frustrating. Another advantage of the Wii, screen crunch. When you're moving through a tunnel this fast, it would help to see more than 2 inches ahead of you. The other major problem is the audio. Remember how the Pink theme droned so aggressively? While the limited sound chip of the DS does not help matters. While we're on the subject, let's talk about that music. Despite the limits, DS remixes don't need to be awful. Plants vs. Zombies DS actually has my preferred soundtrack. The Colors DS soundtrack isn't awful, it's just disposable. There's no reason to ever listen to it over the Wii soundtrack. I kinda wish there was more to say, especially considering this is number 1, but it's pure monotony. It's just drilling with impossible controls for, wait, 8 minutes? That's it? Yeah, remove the side missions and boss fight, and this Planet Wisp is shorter than in Generations. That is really damn embarrassing, but not unreasonable. I can't say I actually want more of this content. The repetition alone would kill these levels, but there's just no fun to be had in the first place. The Wisps have had a really rough time, from Lost World to Forces to Team Racing, but I can't think of a single level they managed to ruin as thoroughly as they've done to Planet Wisp twice now.
What about Planet Wisp at the Olympic Games?
Who are you?